Imagine your mind as a grand orchestra, where billions of instruments play together in perfect harmony. Each note is a thought, each melody a memory, each rhythm a sensation. But what makes this symphony of consciousness possible? Why does your brain create this magnificent concert of awareness, while a supercomputer, processing millions of calculations per second, remains as silent as a stone? IIT theory is one of the most profound and ambitious attempts to crack the code of consciousness. Developed by neuroscientist Giulio Tononi in the early 2000s, this theory doesn't just ask what consciousness is, it dares to measure it mathematically, to quantify the very essence of awareness itself. Think about this moment right now. As you rest here, your mind isn't just processing individual sensations. The weight of your body against the bed, the gentle rhythm of your breathing, the soft texture of your pillow. Instead, all these experiences merge into one seamless moment of awareness. This, according to IIT, is the key to consciousness is not just having information, but weaving it together into a unified experience. Consider the difference between your brain and a security camera system in a shopping mall. The camera system might have hundreds of feeds, processing more visual information than you could ever handle. Yet it's not conscious. Why? Because each camera operates independently, like musicians playing in separate rooms. Your brain, however, is like an orchestra, where every instrument affects and is affected by all others, creating something greater than the sum of its parts. This is where IIT introduces a fascinating concept of phi, a mathematical measure of consciousness. Think of phi as the conductor's ability to coordinate the orchestra. The more integrated the orchestra, the more beautiful the symphony. Similarly, the higher the phi value, the richer the conscious experience. Your brain, with its billions of interconnected neurons, has an incredibly high phi value, creating the rich symphony of human consciousness. But here's where the theory becomes truly mind-bending. IIT suggests that consciousness isn't like a light switch, on or off. Instead, it's more like a dimmer, existing in varying degrees. Even a simple organism like a bee might have a glimmer of consciousness, a tiny chamber orchestra compared to our philharmonic. This raises profound questions. Could your houseplant have a whisper of awareness? Might an advanced AI one day achieve its own unique symphony of consciousness? Let's delve deeper into how this integration creates your conscious experience. Right now, as you're listening, your brain is performing an extraordinary feat. It's not just processing words separately from emotions or memories separately from sensations. Everything is woven together. The words you hear might trigger memories. Those memories might evoke emotions. Those emotions might create physical sensations, all seamlessly integrated into one moment of experience. This is why IIT stands apart from other theories of consciousness. It doesn't just say that consciousness emerges from complex information processing. After all, your laptop does that. Instead, it proposes that consciousness emerges from the way information is structured and integrated. It's not about the amount of information, but how that information comes together to create meaning. Think about what happens when you're falling asleep. As your consciousness begins to fade, the integration in your brain gradually loosens. Thoughts become less connected, sensations start to drift apart, and the tight orchestration of wakefulness begins to relax. This is why dreams often have their own peculiar logic. The conductor is taking a break, letting the orchestra experiment with new, unusual arrangements. The implications of IIT stretch far beyond our understanding of human consciousness. If consciousness is indeed a property of integrated information, it might exist in forms we've never imagined. The theory suggests that consciousness isn't limited to biological brains. Any system with sufficient information integration might have its own form of experience. This doesn't mean your smartphone is conscious, its components work too independently, but it opens the door to the possibility of different forms of consciousness emerging in unexpected places. Consider the brain of someone in a deep coma. Traditional methods might show minimal brain activity, but IIT provides a framework for understanding if there might still be islands of consciousness, small chamber groups still playing within the larger silent orchestra. This has profound implications for how we treat patients in various states of consciousness, suggesting there might be more awareness present than we can outwardly observe. As we explore this theory, it's natural to wonder about artificial intelligence. Could we create a conscious AI? According to IIT, the answer isn't about processing power or the amount of information. It's about integration. An AI wouldn't become conscious just by being more powerful or processing more data. It would need to integrate information in a way that creates a unified experience, like our neural orchestra. This suggests that the path to conscious AI might be very different from our current approaches to artificial intelligence. The theory also offers insights into the nature of our own consciousness. Why do some experiences enter our awareness while others don't? IIT suggests it's about the level of integration. Information that becomes highly integrated with other processes in our brain enters our consciousness, while information that remains isolated does not. This explains why you can drive home on autopilot, not consciously aware of every turn and stop until something unusual demands your attention. Suddenly, that information becomes highly integrated with other brain processes, entering your conscious awareness. As you rest here, consider the extraordinary integration happening in your mind right now. Every sensation, thought, and emotion is part of a vast, interconnected symphony of consciousness. Your awareness isn't just a collection of separate experiences. It's a masterpiece of integration, where every element contributes to the whole. IIT reminds us that consciousness isn't just something we have, it's something we are. It's the fundamental way our brain brings together all our experiences into a seamless whole. As you drift towards sleep, notice how this integration slowly transforms. The tight orchestration of wakefulness gradually gives way to the loose, creative arrangements of dreams. Even in sleep, your consciousness doesn't disappear. It simply shifts to a different kind of symphony. This is the beauty of integrated information theory. It doesn't just explain consciousness, it helps us appreciate the extraordinary complexity and beauty of our own awareness. Every moment of consciousness is a miracle of integration, a symphony of billions of neurons playing together to create the music of your mind. As you rest here now, let yourself marvel at this incredible performance, this endless dance of integrated information that creates the unique symphony of your conscious experience. Global Workspace Theory. Right now, in this very moment, millions of actors are performing in the theater of your mind. The soft whisper of your breathing, the gentle weight of your blanket, a drifting thought about tomorrow, the distant ticking of a clock. All of these sensations are like performers competing for the spotlight of your consciousness. But only one can take center stage at a time. This is the fascinating story of how your mind orchestrates the grandest show on Earth, your conscious experience. In the intricate theater of your brain, a performance more complex than any Broadway show unfolds every second of your existence. Imagine having to direct a play where thousands of actors audition simultaneously, but you can only choose one to step into the spotlight at any moment. This is exactly what your brain does, and it does it with such seamless precision that you've never noticed the magnificent production playing out behind your eyes. 40 years ago, a brilliant psychologist named Bernard Bars peered behind this mental curtain and discovered something remarkable. Your consciousness, he realized, wasn't just a simple spotlight, it was an entire broadcasting system. When a thought or sensation wins the audition and steps into your awareness, it's like that actor's voice suddenly being projected to every corner of a vast amphitheater. Every member of the audience, from your memories to your emotions, from your logical reasoning to your deepest intuitions, receives the performance simultaneously. Let's explore this extraordinary theater through an experience you've surely had. Picture yourself driving home on a familiar route. Your conscious spotlight isn't focused on the actual driving. Those processes are like well-rehearsed stagehands working efficiently in the darkness. Suddenly, a red ball bounces onto the road. In an instant, this new actor seizes the spotlight. The performance is broadcast throughout your mental theater. Your memory reminds you that balls are often followed by running children, your emotions trigger alertness, your motor systems prepare to brake, and your problem-solving areas calculate trajectories. All these responses happen in perfect synchronization thanks to the global broadcast of that single conscious moment. But here's where the magic deepens. Behind the main stage, in the shadows of your unconscious mind, countless other performances continue. Your brain is monitoring your body temperature, adjusting your posture, processing background sounds, and maintaining your breathing, all without requiring the main spotlight. These unconscious processes are like the essential crew members of a theater, working tirelessly behind the scenes to keep the show running smoothly. The brilliance of global workspace theory lies in explaining why we need consciousness at all. Just as a theater coordinates hundreds of people through announcements over its speaker system, your consciousness broadcasts important information to multiple brain regions simultaneously. When you encounter something novel or important, it takes the spotlight not because it's the only thing happening, but because it needs to be shared with the entire theater of your mind. Consider what happens when you're falling asleep. The usually orderly auditions for your conscious spotlight begin to take surprising turns. Thoughts and sensations that wouldn't normally win the spotlight during wakefulness start taking center stage. The strict director of your attention begins to dream, allowing unusual combinations of actors to perform together. This is why your thoughts become more fluid, more dreamlike as you drift off. Your consciousness theater is transitioning from its daytime performance to its nighttime reverie. The theory also explains those mysterious moments when you drive home and suddenly realize you can't remember the journey. During those automated tasks, your conscious spotlight wasn't needed. The well-trained stagehands handled everything perfectly well in the darkness. But the moment something unexpected happens, the spotlight swings back into action, ready to broadcast important information to all corners of your mental theater. This broadcasting system is what makes human consciousness so remarkable. It allows us to combine different types of information, to be creative, to solve complex problems. When Shakespeare wrote, "All the world's a stage," he didn't know how literally true that was for our consciousness. Every moment of your awareness is indeed a carefully coordinated performance, where millions of potential actors wait in the wings, but only the most relevant take center stage. As you rest here now, become aware of your own mental theater. Notice how thoughts and sensations gracefully step into and out of the spotlight. Observe how some linger in the wings, while others command your full attention. You're witnessing the most sophisticated broadcasting system known to science, your own consciousness, performing its eternal dance of awareness. In this grand theater of your mind, every moment brings a new scene, every sensation a new possibility, and every thought a new performance. And the most beautiful part, this magnificent show plays on, whether you're watching it or not, orchestrating the symphony of your conscious experience with perfect precision from one moment to the next, from wakefulness to dreams, in an endless dance of awareness. Higher order theory. Picture this: you're sitting in your favorite chair, feeling its soft texture against your skin, while enjoying the gentle warmth of sunlight on your face. But here's the fascinating part. You're not just experiencing these sensations. You're aware that you're experiencing them. This awareness of your own experiences is what philosophers and scientists have been puzzling over for centuries, and it brings us to one of the most compelling theories of consciousness, the higher order theory. In its simplest form, higher order theory suggests that consciousness isn't just about having experiences, it's about having thoughts about those experiences. Think of it like a mental theater with two levels. On the first level, your brain processes raw sensations, emotions, and thoughts. But it's the second level, where your mind observes and recognizes these processes, that creates what we call consciousness. Let's use an everyday example to understand this better. When you're driving a familiar route home, you might find yourself arriving at your destination with little memory of the actual journey. Your brain was clearly processing all the necessary information, road signs, traffic signals, other cars, but you weren't consciously aware of it. According to higher-order theory, this happened because while your first-order mental states were functioning perfectly, the higher-order thoughts about these experiences were absent. This theory was first proposed by philosopher David Rosenthal, who argued that consciousness emerges when we have thoughts about our mental states. It's like having an internal observer who watches and comments on our experiences. But this observer isn't a tiny person in our head. It's a complex network of mental processes that monitor and reflect upon our other mental activities. The beauty of higher-order theory lies in how it explains many puzzling aspects of consciousness. Consider blind sight, a fascinating condition where people who are clinically blind can still react to visual stimuli without conscious awareness. These individuals can catch a ball thrown at them or navigate around obstacles, despite claiming they can't see anything. How is this possible? Higher-order theory suggests that while their first-order visual processing remains intact, they lack the higher-order thoughts that would make these visual experiences conscious. Another compelling example comes from our emotional lives. Have you ever been in a situation where someone points out that you're angry, and only then do you realize that, yes, you are indeed feeling angry? According to higher-order theory, your brain was already processing the emotion, first-order state, but you became conscious of it only when you formed a higher-order thought about that emotional state. The theory also helps explain the difference between human consciousness and simpler forms of awareness in other animals. While many creatures can process sensory information and respond to their environment, humans possess a sophisticated ability to reflect on their mental states. It's like the difference between a security camera that records everything and a security guard who watches the footage and understands what they're seeing. Critics of higher-order theory raise interesting questions. If consciousness requires thoughts about our experiences, what about the consciousness of those thoughts themselves? Do we need an infinite regression of higher and higher-order thoughts? Defenders of the theory argue that the higher-order thoughts themselves don't need to be conscious for consciousness to emerge, just as a spotlight doesn't need to illuminate itself to illuminate other objects. Recent neuroscientific research has provided intriguing support for higher-order theory. Studies have shown that the prefrontal cortex, an area associated with self-reflection and metacognition, plays a crucial role in conscious awareness. When this region is damaged or temporarily disabled, people can still process information, but may lose conscious awareness of their experiences. The implications of higher-order theory extend far beyond academic interest. Understanding consciousness this way could revolutionize our approach to artificial intelligence. Instead of trying to create conscious machines by simply processing information, we might need to build systems capable of forming higher-order representations of their own processes. It's the difference between a computer that processes data and one that knows it's processing data. The theory also has profound implications for understanding altered states of consciousness. During meditation, for instance, practitioners often report a state of pure awareness where the distinction between observer and observed seems to dissolve. Higher-order theory might explain this as a unique state where first-order and higher-order processes align in a particular way, creating a distinctive form of conscious experience. As we drift closer to understanding consciousness, higher-order theory stands as a compelling framework for explaining how our subjective experience emerges from the complex machinery of our brains. It reminds us that consciousness isn't just about what we experience, but about our awareness of those experiences. A beautiful dance between experiencing and knowing that we're experiencing. Our journey through consciousness continues to unfold, and higher-order theory illuminates one possible path toward understanding the greatest mystery of all, how we come to know ourselves as conscious beings in this vast universe. Attention schema theory. Close your eyes for a moment and become aware of everything around you. The subtle sounds, the temperature of the air, the weight of your body, and even your own thoughts floating through your mind. Now, here's the million-dollar question. How does your brain create this miraculous experience of being aware? The answer might lie in one of the most groundbreaking theories of consciousness. The attention schema theory. Imagine your brain as the world's most sophisticated command center. Just like how a modern airport needs an air traffic control system to track and manage countless flights, your brain needs a way to monitor and control its own attention. This is where the attention schema theory, developed by neuroscientist Michael Graziano at Princeton University, comes into play. The theory suggests that consciousness isn't some mysterious force, but rather a practical tool your brain has evolved to help it understand and predict its own attention. Think about how your brain creates a body schema, a detailed internal model of your body's position and movement in space. When you reach for a cup of coffee, you don't need to visually track your hand's every movement. Your brain has an internal model that predicts where your hand is and how it will move. The attention schema theory proposes that consciousness works in a similar way. It's your brain's internal model of its own attention. Let's break this down with a practical example. When you're deeply engrossed in reading a fascinating book, your attention is focused on the story, the characters, and the unfolding plot. Your brain isn't just directing attention to these elements. It's also maintaining an internal model, a simplified representation of how and where your attention is focused. This internal model is what gives rise to your subjective experience of being aware of what you're reading. But why would our brains need such a model? The answer lies in the complexity of attention itself. Attention is like a spotlight that your brain uses to enhance some information while suppressing others. It's a physical process involving networks of neurons, neurotransmitters, and neural dynamics. However, modeling all these intricate details would be computationally overwhelming. Instead, your brain creates a simplified schema, an approximate model that captures the essential features of attention without getting bogged down in the neural mechanics. This simplified model manifests in our experience as awareness or consciousness. When you say, "I am aware of the coffee cup," what you're actually experiencing is your brain's internal model of its attention on the coffee cup. The genius of this theory lies in how it explains both the presence and absence of consciousness in different situations. Consider the phenomenon of blind sight, where people with damage to their primary visual cortex can respond to visual stimuli without conscious awareness. According to attention schema theory, these individuals still have functioning attention mechanisms. They can process visual information. But they've lost the ability to model this attention, resulting in a lack of conscious awareness. The theory also elegantly explains why we're not conscious of everything our brain processes. Your brain is constantly processing vast amounts of information, from your internal organ functions to background sounds. But you're only conscious of what your attention schema is currently modeling. It's like having multiple security cameras in a building, but only being aware of what's showing on the main monitor. One of the most fascinating aspects of attention schema theory is how it explains our intuitions about consciousness. Throughout history, humans have described consciousness as an intangible essence or spirit. The theory suggests this isn't a mistake, but rather a feature of how our attention schema works. Just as our body schema doesn't include details about muscles and tendons, we just know where our limbs are, our attention schema doesn't include the neural mechanics of attention. Instead, it represents attention in an abstract, non-physical way, leading to our intuition that consciousness is something ethereal and separate from the physical brain. The theory also sheds light on social cognition and our ability to attribute awareness to others. Just as we use our body schema to predict others' physical movements, we use our attention schema to model others' attention and awareness. This ability to model others' conscious states has been crucial for human social evolution, enabling complex cooperation and communication. Think about when you're having a conversation with someone. You're not just processing their words, you're also modeling their attention and awareness. You can tell if they're fully engaged or if their mind is wandering. This social aspect of consciousness, according to attention schema theory, may have been one of the driving forces behind the evolution of consciousness itself. The theory has profound implications for artificial intelligence and machine consciousness. Instead of trying to create consciousness through increasingly complex information processing, perhaps we should focus on building systems that can model their own attention. A truly conscious AI might need not just attention mechanisms, but also the ability to create and maintain an attention schema. Recent experimental evidence has provided strong support for attention schema theory. Studies using brain imaging have shown that specific regions of the brain, particularly in the temporoparietal junction, are active when we model both our own attention and the attention of others. When these areas are disrupted through techniques like transcranial magnetic stimulation, people show changes in their conscious awareness and their ability to model others' mental states. The theory also offers insights into altered states of consciousness. During meditation, for instance, practitioners often report a state of pure awareness or consciousness without content. Through the lens of attention schema theory, this might represent a state where the attention schema is active but not currently modeling any specific content, like having the security monitor turned on but showing an empty room. Understanding consciousness through attention schema theory has practical implications for mental health and well-being. Many psychological disorders involve disruptions in attention and awareness. By viewing these conditions through the lens of attention schema, we might develop more effective treatments that target not just attention itself, but also how the brain models and controls attention. Looking to the future, attention schema theory opens up exciting possibilities. Could we develop technologies that enhance our ability to model and control our attention? Might we find ways to modify our attention schema to reduce suffering or enhance well-being? Could we create artificial systems with genuine consciousness by implementing attention schemas? As we drift deeper into understanding consciousness, attention schema theory provides a compelling framework that bridges the gap between our subjective experience and the physical processes in our brains. It reminds us that consciousness, rather than being a mysterious force, might be a practical tool that evolution has crafted to help our brains understand and control themselves. The theory suggests that the very thing that makes us feel most human, our conscious awareness, is actually a sophisticated survival mechanism, an elegant solution to the complex problem of controlling attention in a world full of competing demands for our mental resources. In understanding this, we come closer to understanding ourselves, our minds, and our place in the vast tapestry of conscious experience that makes up human existence. Predictive processing theory. Imagine waking up in a new city you've never visited before. Everything around you, the architecture, the sounds, even the way people walk, is unfamiliar. At first, you might feel disoriented because your brain lacks a reliable model of this new environment. However, as you begin to explore, your brain builds predictions based on the streets you walk, the shops you see, and the landmarks you pass. If you revisit this city in the future, it will feel far less foreign. Your brain will have developed a mental map, a predictive model, that makes navigating the environment easier. This process of constant updating and learning illustrates the heart of predictive processing theory. To truly appreciate the power of this framework, let's delve deeper into its neurological underpinnings. Predictive processing relies on a brain structure called the Bayesian brain, named after Bayes' theorem, a mathematical formula used to update probabilities based on new evidence. In the context of the brain, this means that predictions are not static guesses, but dynamic calculations that integrate past experiences with incoming sensory data. For example, when you see a blurry figure in the distance, your brain doesn't simply wait for more information. It actively predicts whether that figure is a person, an animal, or just an oddly shaped object. These predictions are constantly refined as you gather more sensory input. Neurons in the brain communicate using a system of hierarchical feedback loops. Higher cortical areas send predictions down to lower areas, while sensory data flows upward. When the sensory input matches the prediction, the system runs smoothly, conserving energy and resources. But when there's a mismatch, a prediction error, neurons fire signals back to higher areas, demanding an update. This feedback loop is so fundamental that it operates across all domains of cognition, from simple motor actions to complex decision-making. Consider another example: tasting a dish for the first time. Imagine you're offered a bowl of soup, and based on its aroma, your brain predicts it will be savory. However, when you take a spoonful, it turns out to be sweet. That moment of surprise, where reality clashes with your expectations, is a vivid example of prediction error. Your brain recalibrates its model, updating its understanding of this specific soup's flavor profile. Over time, repeated experiences reduce prediction errors, making the dish familiar and predictable. Predictive processing is also deeply tied to the concept of efficiency. The brain is a notoriously energy-hungry organ, consuming about 20% of the body's energy despite accounting for only 2% of its weight. By relying on predictions, the brain conserves energy by processing only the most critical sensory information. For instance, when walking down a familiar street, your brain doesn't scrutinize every crack in the pavement or every sound in the background. Instead, it predicts the general sensory experience and focuses on any deviations, such as an unexpected pothole or a loud noise. This ability to filter out irrelevant details allows us to navigate complex environments without being overwhelmed. But predictive processing isn't just about reacting to the external world, it's also about creating our internal experiences. For instance, when you recall a memory, your brain isn't retrieving a perfect, static snapshot of the past. Instead, it's reconstructing the memory based on predictions about what likely happened, filling in gaps with plausible details. This is why memories can change over time. They're not fixed records, but dynamic reconstructions influenced by new experiences and expectations. This reconstructive nature of the brain extends to how we perceive time. Predictive processing suggests that our sense of time is not a direct experience of reality, but a prediction based on patterns. When waiting for something exciting, such as a concert or a vacation, time seems to drag because your brain is overactive, predicting the future moment with anticipation. Conversely, during routine or monotonous activities, time seems to fly because your brain predicts the sequence of events so efficiently that it processes them almost automatically. The implications of predictive processing theory go beyond individual perception and touch on social interactions. When you talk to someone, your brain predicts not only what they might say, but also their tone, facial expressions, and body language. These predictions help you respond appropriately and maintain smooth communication. If their reaction deviates from your expectations, for example, they frown when you expected them to smile, it creates a prediction error, prompting you to reconsider what you said or how you interpreted their mood. Interestingly, this predictive mechanism may explain why first impressions are so powerful. When meeting someone for the first time, your brain quickly generates predictions about their personality, based on superficial cues like appearance or tone of voice. These initial predictions create a framework that influences how you interpret their actions and words in the future. Correcting these predictions, if they turn out to be wrong, can require significant effort as the brain tends to cling to its established models. One of the most compelling applications of predictive processing theory is its ability to explain altered states of consciousness, such as those experienced during meditation, psychedelics, or certain neurological conditions. For instance, during meditation, practitioners often focus on disrupting the brain's automatic predictions by observing thoughts and sensations without judgment. This act of letting go of predictions can create a profound sense of presence, where the boundary between self and environment feels blurred. Similarly, psychedelics like LSD and psilocybin appear to reduce the brain's reliance on high-level predictions, allowing sensory input to take precedence. This can result in vivid hallucinations or a sense of seeing the world as it really is, unfiltered by the brain's usual predictive machinery. While these experiences can be disorienting, they also provide insights into how tightly our perceptions are bound by the brain's predictions. Moreover, predictive processing theory offers a framework for understanding cultural and societal influences on perception. From a young age, we're exposed to cultural narratives that shape our brain's predictions about the world. These narratives influence how we interpret events, interact with others, and even perceive beauty or morality. For example, someone raised in a culture that values collectivism might predict harmony and cooperation in social interactions, whereas someone from an individualistic culture might predict competition and self-expression. These predictions, in turn, shape how people behave and perceive each other. On a larger scale, the predictive brain could even explain phenomena like confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out information that aligns with our existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. From a predictive processing perspective, this bias occurs because the brain prioritizes predictions that minimize prediction error. Challenging these predictions requires more cognitive effort and resources, making it easier to stick with what feels familiar and consistent. To understand just how pervasive predictions are, let's revisit the example of walking into a coffee shop. While your brain predicts the smell of coffee and the sight of a barista, it's also predicting subtler aspects, like the social norms you're expected to follow. You anticipate saying thank you after receiving your coffee or waiting patiently in line. These predictions, though rarely noticed, create the smooth flow of social life. When someone violates these norms, perhaps by cutting in line, your brain registers a prediction error, often triggering emotions like annoyance or confusion. This seamless integration of sensory, emotional, and social predictions is a testament to the brain's complexity. Yet it's also a reminder that our experience of reality is never direct. Everything we perceive, feel, or think is filtered through layers of predictions shaped by our past experiences, current context, and future expectations. In a way, predictive processing theory challenges the notion of objective reality. It suggests that what we call reality is a collaborative effort between the external world and the brain's internal model. This doesn't mean that reality is purely subjective, but rather that our access to it is always mediated by prediction. Ultimately, predictive processing theory provides a profound lens through which to understand consciousness. It reveals the brain not as a passive observer, but as an active participant, constantly shaping and reshaping our experience of the world. From catching a ball to interpreting a friend's smile, from recalling a memory to imagining the future, the brain's predictions are the invisible threads that weave the fabric of our lives. And as we continue to explore this theory, we're not only learning about the brain, but also uncovering the intricate mechanisms that define what it means to be human. In this endless dance between prediction and perception, the fog of uncertainty is never fully lifted. But through this fog, our brains navigate, adapt, and thrive, turning the chaos of sensory input into the order of experience, moment by moment, prediction by prediction. Information processing theory. Have you ever wondered why your smartphone feels almost alive when you interact with it? How it processes information, responds to your touch, and seamlessly translates electrical signals into meaningful experiences. Now, imagine something far more sophisticated, your own consciousness. The information processing theory of consciousness suggests that our aware experience might operate on surprisingly similar principles, turning the raw data of existence into the symphony of conscious experience we call life. In its essence, the information processing theory proposes that consciousness emerges from the way our brains process, integrate, and manipulate information. Just as your computer transforms binary code into the videos, images, and text you see on screen, your brain transforms neural signals into your conscious experience of reality. This theory, pioneered by scientists like Giulio Tononi and Christoph Koch, suggests that consciousness isn't some mystical force, but rather a sophisticated information processing system. Let's dive into this fascinating concept with a simple analogy. Imagine you're sitting in a grand concert hall. The orchestra is playing a beautiful symphony, and you're consciously experiencing the music. According to the information processing theory, your conscious experience of this moment isn't just about the sound waves hitting your ears. Instead, it's about how your brain processes and integrates multiple streams of information. The pitch, rhythm, and timbre of different instruments, the spatial location of sounds, your emotional responses, memories of similar music, and countless other data points, into a unified, conscious experience. The theory suggests that consciousness emerges when information is processed in specific ways. First, the information must be integrated. Different pieces of data must be combined into a coherent whole. Think about how your brain integrates visual information about a rose, its shape, color, and location, with olfactory information, its scent, and semantic information, your knowledge about roses, to create your conscious experience of seeing and smelling a rose. But integration alone isn't enough. The information must also be differentiated. The system must be capable of entering many different states. Your consciousness can take on billions of different possible states, each corresponding to a unique experience. This vast repertoire of possible states is what allows for the richness of conscious experience. It's why you can distinguish between countless shades of blue, recognize thousands of faces, and experience an infinite variety of emotional states. One of the most fascinating aspects of this theory is its explanation of the unity of conscious experience. Have you ever wondered why you experience the world as one seamless whole rather than as fragmented pieces of information? The information processing theory suggests that this happens because your brain creates what scientists call an integrated information space, a mathematical structure where all the processed information comes together to create a unified experience. Consider how you experience a simple cup of coffee. Your brain processes multiple streams of information simultaneously. The visual appearance of the cup, the warmth in your hands, the aroma wafting up, the taste on your tongue, your memories of previous coffee experiences, and your knowledge about coffee in general. All this information is integrated into a single, unified conscious experience of drinking coffee. This integration happens automatically and seamlessly, creating what philosophers call the phenomenal unity of consciousness. The theory also helps explain why some information processing in our brains remains unconscious while other processing becomes conscious. Think of your brain as a massive corporation. Just as a CEO doesn't need to be aware of every minor operation happening in the company, your consciousness doesn't need access to every bit of information being processed in your brain. Only information that is sufficiently integrated and differentiated reaches the level of conscious awareness. This selective consciousness serves a practical purpose. Your brain processes an enormous amount of information every second, from controlling your heartbeat to maintaining your balance to monitoring your environment for potential threats. If all this information reached consciousness, you would be overwhelmed. Instead, your brain creates a simplified, integrated model of the most relevant information, which becomes your conscious experience. Recent research has provided compelling evidence for this theory. Scientists have developed mathematical measures of information integration in neural networks, allowing them to predict whether a system is likely to be conscious. These measures, such as Tononi's phi, our F metric, quantify the amount of integrated information in a system, potentially providing a mathematical basis for consciousness. The implications of this theory extend far beyond pure science. In medicine, it's helping doctors understand disorders of consciousness and develop new treatments. In technology, it's influencing the development of artificial intelligence systems that might one day possess genuine consciousness. And in philosophy, it's providing new ways to think about age-old questions about the nature of consciousness and its place in the universe. We've explored how consciousness might emerge from information processing in our brains, how this processing creates unified experiences, and why some information becomes conscious while other information doesn't. But this is just the beginning of our journey into the information processing theory of consciousness. As we delve deeper into the information processing theory, let's explore how this framework explains some of the most mysterious aspects of consciousness and what it means for our understanding of human experience, artificial intelligence, and the future of consciousness research. One of the most intriguing aspects of information processing in consciousness is the concept of recursive processing. Imagine standing between two mirrors, seeing an infinite reflection of reflections. Similarly, your conscious mind can think about thinking, be aware of being aware, and process information about its own information processing. This recursive capability creates what scientists call metaconsciousness, the ability to be aware of our own conscious states. Consider a moment when you're lost in thought, perhaps daydreaming, and suddenly realize you're daydreaming. This aha moment is metaconsciousness in action. The information processing theory suggests that this happens because your brain has created a higher-order information structure that represents and processes information about your own conscious states. It's like having a mental surveillance system that monitors and reports on your consciousness. But how does the brain decide which information becomes conscious? Scientists propose the existence of what they call attention schemas, sophisticated filtering mechanisms that determine which information patterns reach consciousness. Think of it as your brain's editorial team, constantly deciding which stories make the front page of your conscious experience and which remain in the cutting room floor. The theory also offers fascinating insights into the relationship between consciousness and memory. When you remember something, you're not just retrieving stored information. You're recreating a pattern of information processing similar to the original experience. This explains why memories feel conscious when we recall them, even though they were previously dormant. It's like running an old program on your computer, generating the same outputs it did before. Recent research has revealed that conscious information processing occurs in distinct waves or cycles. These cycles, happening roughly 40 times per second, 40 hertz, create what scientists call the cognitive rhythm of consciousness. It's like your brain is taking 40 snapshots of processed information every second and integrating them into the smooth, continuous stream of conscious experience you perceive. The information processing theory has also shed light on altered states of consciousness. During meditation, for example, practitioners often report a state of pure consciousness with no specific content. The theory suggests this occurs when the brain maintains high levels of integrated information processing while minimizing differentiation, creating a stable, unified state of awareness without specific content. One particularly fascinating application of this theory involves dreams. During REM sleep, your brain creates highly integrated and differentiated patterns of information processing, explaining why dreams feel just as real as waking experiences while they're happening. However, the different pattern of information integration explains why dream experiences often have their own peculiar logic and feel different from waking consciousness. The theory also helps explain the relationship between consciousness and prediction. Your brain isn't just processing current information, it's constantly generating predictions about future information. These predictions form what scientists call a generative model of reality. When you reach for a cup, your consciousness includes not just current sensory information, but also predicted sensations of touch, weight, and temperature. This predictive aspect of consciousness has profound implications for our understanding of time perception. Your conscious experience of the present moment isn't just about current information processing. It's a complex integration of processed sensory information, predictions about the immediate future, and very recent memories, all combined into what feels like a seamless present moment. The information processing theory has also revolutionized our understanding of emotional consciousness. Emotions aren't just feelings. They're complex patterns of integrated information processing that combine physiological data, cognitive appraisals, behavioral responses, and subjective experiences. This explains why emotional experiences feel so rich and multifaceted. Looking toward the future, this theory has important implications for artificial consciousness. It suggests that creating conscious AI isn't just about processing power or sophisticated algorithms. It requires creating systems capable of integrating information in specific ways. This might mean that conscious AI will need to be structured very differently from current AI systems. The theory also raises profound questions about the nature of reality and our place in it. If consciousness is fundamentally about information processing, could our entire universe be understood as a vast information processing system? Some scientists suggest that information might be as fundamental to reality as matter and energy. As we conclude our exploration of the information processing theory, we're left with a profound appreciation for the complexity and sophistication of conscious experience. Our consciousness isn't just a passive observer of reality. It's an active process of information integration that creates our lived experience moment by moment. Understanding consciousness as information processing doesn't diminish its wonder. Rather, it helps us appreciate the incredible complexity and sophistication of our conscious experience. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of consciousness, the information processing theory provides a powerful framework for understanding how our brains transform the raw data of existence into the rich tapestry of conscious experience that we call life. This theory reminds us that consciousness, rather than being some mysterious force, might be the most sophisticated information processing system we know of. A system that turns the countless bits of data from our senses, memories, thoughts, and emotions into the seamless, unified experience of being aware, of being alive, of being conscious. Neural correlates of consciousness. Right now, as you listen these words, trillions of neurons are firing in an intricate dance within your brain, creating the miraculous experience of being conscious. But how does this neural activity transform into your awareness, your thoughts, and your sense of self? This is where the fascinating field of neural correlates of consciousness, NCCs, comes in. The direct links between specific patterns of brain activity and your conscious experiences. Think of it as discovering the individual instruments that create the symphony of your consciousness. Imagine your consciousness as a grand theater production. The neural correlates of consciousness are like all the essential elements that make the show possible. The actors, neurons, the stage, brain regions, the lighting, neural activity patterns, and the coordinated movements, neural synchronization. When all these elements work together perfectly, the magic of conscious experience emerges. Back in the early 1990s, two scientific pioneers, Francis Crick and Christoph Koch, proposed a revolutionary idea that transformed our understanding of consciousness. Instead of viewing consciousness as some ethereal, untouchable phenomenon, they suggested we focus on finding its physical signatures in the brain. This marked the beginning of a scientific revolution in consciousness research. At the heart of this research lies a fascinating discovery. Not all neural activity leads to conscious experience. Your brain is constantly processing vast amounts of information, from your heartbeat to your breathing, from background sounds to peripheral vision. But only a small fraction of this activity reaches your conscious awareness. It's like having multiple TV channels broadcasting simultaneously, but you're only consciously aware of the one you're tuned into. One of the most crucial NCCs resides in what scientists call the thalamocortical system, a complex network involving the thalamus, a central hub in your brain, and the cortex, the wrinkled outer layer. Think of this system as the brain's broadcasting network. When you're conscious, this network maintains a specific pattern of activity, like a perfectly tuned radio signal. When this pattern is disrupted, whether through sleep, anesthesia, or injury, consciousness fades or disappears entirely. But consciousness isn't just about being awake or asleep. Different conscious experiences have their own unique neural signatures. When you see a face, a specific region called the fusiform face area becomes active. When you feel joy, the amygdala and other emotion processing regions show distinct patterns of activity. These content-specific NCCs are like the individual instruments in our consciousness symphony, each contributing its unique part to the overall experience. One of the most striking discoveries came from studying patients with a condition called blind sight. These individuals, despite having damage to their primary visual cortex, can react to visual stimuli without being consciously aware of seeing anything. This phenomenon revealed something crucial about consciousness. It's not enough for the brain to process information. That information needs to be integrated and broadcast in a specific way to become conscious. The timing of conscious experience has also revealed fascinating insights. Scientists have discovered that it takes about 200 to 500 milliseconds for a neural event to become conscious. This delay suggests that consciousness isn't instantaneous. It's more like a carefully orchestrated performance that takes time to unfold. During this brief window, your brain integrates multiple streams of information into a coherent conscious experience. One of the most powerful tools in studying NCCs has been the investigation of binocular rivalry, a phenomenon where each eye is shown a different image, but you consciously perceive only one at a time. This has allowed scientists to keep the physical stimulus constant while consciousness fluctuates, helping to isolate the neural patterns specifically associated with conscious awareness. It's like having a window into the moment-by-moment changes in conscious experience and their corresponding neural activities. Recent research has revealed that NCCs aren't just about which neurons fire, but also about how they fire together. This synchronization, particularly in the gamma frequency range, around 40 Hz, appears to be crucial for conscious experience. It's like an orchestra where individual musicians must play in perfect harmony to create beautiful music. When this neural synchrony is disrupted, conscious experience can become fragmented or disappear entirely. The implications of these discoveries extend far beyond the laboratory. In medicine, understanding NCCs has revolutionized the assessment and treatment of patients with disorders of consciousness. Doctors can now use brain imaging to detect signs of consciousness in patients who can't communicate conventionally, leading to more accurate diagnoses and better treatment decisions. As we delve deeper into this exploration of NCCs, we begin to understand that consciousness isn't located in a single brain region or neural circuit. Instead, it emerges from the coordinated activity of multiple brain networks, each contributing to the rich tapestry of conscious experience. This distributed nature of consciousness explains why it can be both robust and fragile, while damage to single brain regions rarely eliminates consciousness entirely. Disrupting the right patterns of neural activity can profoundly alter or suspend conscious experience. As we venture deeper into understanding the neural correlates of consciousness, NCCs, recent discoveries have unveiled even more fascinating aspects of how our brains create conscious experience. This second part explores cutting-edge research and its profound implications for our understanding of consciousness. One of the most groundbreaking recent discoveries involves a mysterious brain structure called the claustrum, a thin sheet of neurons that some scientists now believe might act as a conductor of consciousness. Think of it as the master control room where different aspects of conscious experience are coordinated and integrated. When researchers electrically stimulated this structure in studies, they could actually switch consciousness on and off, like flipping a light switch. This discovery has led to the intriguing possibility that specific neural circuits might serve as consciousness switches in the brain. The emergence of new research techniques has revealed that NCCs operate at multiple levels simultaneously, like a sophisticated computer network with different layers of processing. At the microscopic level, we have individual neurons and their connections. At the intermediate level, we find neural assemblies and circuits, and at the macro level, we observe large-scale brain networks. All these levels must work together harmoniously to create conscious experience. Perhaps one of the most fascinating recent discoveries involves what scientists call the default mode network, DMN, a collection of brain regions that become particularly active when we're not focused on the external world. Think of it as your brain's screensaver mode. This network appears to be crucial for self-awareness, mind-wandering, and our sense of personal identity. When you're lost in thought or daydreaming, your DMN is likely highly active, creating a different kind of conscious experience than when you're focused on external tasks. Recent research has also revealed the crucial role of prediction in consciousness. Your brain isn't just passively receiving and processing information. It's constantly making predictions about what it expects to experience. These predictions form what scientists call a predictive coding model of consciousness. It's like your brain is running a sophisticated simulation of reality, constantly updating it based on new information. NCCs appear to be intimately involved in this prediction process, helping to create our seamless experience of consciousness. The advent of new technologies like optogenetics, where light-sensitive proteins are used to control specific neurons, has allowed scientists to study NCCs with unprecedented precision. These studies have revealed that consciousness might require specific patterns of neural activity rather than just activity in particular brain regions. It's not just about which parts of the brain are active, but how they're active together. One particularly fascinating phenomenon that scientists have discovered is called ignition, the moment when neural activity crosses a threshold and becomes conscious. Using sophisticated imaging techniques, researchers have observed that conscious perception involves a sudden burst of coordinated neural activity across multiple brain regions, like a chain reaction spreading through the brain. This global workspace activation appears to be a key signature of conscious processing. The study of altered states of consciousness has also provided valuable insights into NCCs. Research on meditation, psychedelic experiences, and other altered states has revealed how different patterns of neural activity correlate with different types of conscious experience. This research is not only helping us understand consciousness better, but also opening new therapeutic possibilities for mental health treatment. Looking toward the future, several exciting research directions are emerging. Scientists are developing new tools to study consciousness in real time, including advanced brain-computer interfaces that might allow direct communication with conscious thoughts. Others are exploring how NCCs develop during childhood or differ in various clinical conditions. The implications of NCC research extend far beyond neuroscience. In artificial intelligence, understanding how biological brains create consciousness is inspiring new approaches to creating more sophisticated AI systems. Some researchers argue that creating truly conscious AI might require replicating the specific neural patterns associated with consciousness in biological brains. Perhaps most intriguingly, research into NCCs is raising profound questions about free will and decision-making. Studies have shown that certain neural activity patterns predictive of decisions can be detected before we're consciously aware of making a choice. This suggests that conscious experience might be more like a sophisticated, after-the-fact narrative than the primary driver of our actions. As we stand at the frontier of consciousness research, the study of NCCs continues to bridge the gap between the physical and subjective aspects of consciousness. Each discovery brings us closer to understanding how 3 pounds of neural tissue creates the rich, subjective experience of being conscious. Yet each answer seems to raise new questions, reminding us that consciousness remains one of the most fascinating and complex phenomena in the known universe. This journey of discovery reminds us that our conscious experience, while deeply personal and subjective, has physical correlates in the incredible neural symphony playing out in our brains. As we continue to unravel these mysteries, we're not just learning about the brain, we're learning about what it means to be conscious, to be aware, to be human. Orchestrated objective reduction. The ORCH theory stands as one of the most audacious and intriguing approaches to understanding consciousness. Conceived by Sir Roger Penrose, a distinguished mathematician and physicist, and Stuart Hameroff, an anesthesiologist with a deep interest in the neural underpinnings of consciousness, this theory suggests that consciousness arises from quantum processes within the brain's microtubules. Microtubules are cylindrical protein structures found within the cells of the brain, playing a role in maintaining cell shape, enabling intracellular transport, and facilitating cell division. But according to ORCH theory, they do much more than that. They are central to the very fabric of consciousness itself. Penrose's journey into the realm of consciousness began with his fascination with the nature of computation and its relationship to human thought. His earlier work, particularly in the book The Emperor's New Mind, challenged the prevailing notion that human consciousness could be fully explained by computational processes akin to those of a computer. He argued that the human mind was capable of non-computable functions, processes that no algorithm could replicate. This line of reasoning led Penrose to quantum mechanics, the branch of physics that deals with the behavior of particles at the smallest scales of nature. In the quantum realm, particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, a phenomenon known as superposition. Penrose theorized that these quantum states could collapse or reduce to a single state, and that this reduction process could be the key to understanding consciousness. However, for Penrose's idea to hold water, there had to be a physical structure within the brain where such quantum processes could take place. This is where Stuart Hameroff's expertise became crucial. Hameroff, who had been studying microtubules and their potential role in brain function, proposed that these structures could be the sites where quantum processes related to consciousness occur. According to ORCH theory, microtubules are not just passive structural components of cells, but are involved in the active processing of information at the quantum level. The theory posits that quantum coherence, where particles remain interconnected in a specific state, can occur within these microtubules. When this coherence collapses, it results in a conscious experience, a process termed orchestrated objective reduction. This concept was groundbreaking because it linked consciousness to a physical process that could potentially be observed and measured. It also suggested that consciousness is not merely an emergent property of neural networks and chemical interactions, but is tied to the fundamental laws of physics, specifically the strange and often counterintuitive world of quantum mechanics. Critically, ORCH theory also introduces the idea that consciousness is non-local, meaning it cannot be confined to a specific location within the brain. Instead, consciousness arises from the quantum interactions within microtubules that are spread throughout the brain. This challenges the traditional view that specific regions of the brain, like the prefrontal cortex, are solely responsible for conscious thought. ORCH theory offers a paradigm shift in how we might understand consciousness, suggesting that it is deeply intertwined with the fabric of reality itself. The notion that our conscious experiences are tied to the quantum properties of matter offers a tantalizing glimpse into a new frontier of science, one that could redefine our understanding of the mind, the brain, and the universe. ORCH theory rests on the intricate and often bewildering principles of quantum mechanics, which govern the behavior of particles at the smallest scales of reality. To grasp the essence of this theory, it's essential to explore the quantum foundations that make it possible. Quantum mechanics revolutionized physics in the early 20th century by introducing concepts like superposition, entanglement, and wave-particle duality. These phenomena defy classical logic, where objects are expected to have definite positions and velocities. Instead, quantum mechanics reveals a world where particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, and where the act of observation can influence the outcome of a quantum event. In the context of ORCH theory, the principle of superposition is particularly crucial. Superposition refers to the ability of quantum particles to exist in multiple states at once. This phenomenon is best illustrated by the famous thought experiment known as Schrödinger's cat, where a cat in a box is simultaneously alive and dead until someone opens the box to observe it. In the brain, according to ORCH theory, microtubules might host such superpositions, allowing quantum processes to unfold within these structures. Another key concept is quantum coherence, which describes the state where quantum particles, such as electrons or photons, remain in sync with each other across distances. Coherence is essential for the functioning of quantum systems, as it enables particles to act as a unified whole rather than as isolated entities. In ORCH theory, coherence within microtubules is proposed to play a central role in generating consciousness. Quantum entanglement, another pillar of quantum mechanics, suggests that particles can become interconnected in such a way that the state of one particle instantly influences the state of another, no matter the distance between them. This spooky action at a distance, as Albert Einstein famously described it, has profound implications for ORCH theory. If entanglement occurs within microtubules, it could mean that consciousness arises not from isolated neural processes, but from a web of interconnected quantum states spanning different regions of the brain. The idea of objective reduction, central to ORCH theory, is derived from Penrose's earlier work on the collapse of the quantum wave function. According to quantum mechanics, a particle in superposition exists in all possible states until a measurement collapses it into one definite state. Penrose proposed that this collapse or reduction could occur spontaneously due to gravitational effects at the quantum level, independent of an observer. This process, he argued, could provide a physical basis for consciousness, where each collapse corresponds to a moment of conscious awareness. In ORCH theory, this objective reduction is orchestrated by the structure and dynamics of microtubules. The idea is that when quantum coherence within microtubules reaches a critical threshold, a collapse occurs, leading to a conscious experience. This orchestrated aspect refers to the idea that these reductions are not random, but are influenced by the biological and chemical environment of the brain, which guides the process. The proposal that consciousness could emerge from quantum processes within microtubules is nothing short of revolutionary. It suggests that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of the universe, tied to the quantum properties of matter itself. This challenges the more traditional view that consciousness is solely an emergent property of complex neural networks and biochemical processes. However, the scientific community has met ORCH theory with both intrigue and skepticism. Critics argue that the brain's warm, wet, and noisy environment would disrupt quantum coherence, making it unlikely for such delicate processes to occur. Despite this, recent research in quantum biology has shown that quantum effects can play a role in biological systems, such as photosynthesis and avian navigation, which lends some credibility to the possibility that quantum processes might also be at play in the brain. ORCH theory's reliance on quantum mechanics opens up a fascinating intersection between neuroscience, physics, and philosophy. By proposing that consciousness is rooted in the deepest levels of reality, it challenges us to rethink what it means to be aware, to experience, and to exist. Central to the ORCH theory is the role of microtubules, microscopic tubular structures that are fundamental components of the cytoskeleton within cells, including neurons. Unlike other parts of the cell that are more straightforward in their functions, microtubules present a unique intersection of biology and physics, making them an intriguing candidate for the site of consciousness, according to ORCH theory. Microtubules are composed of tubulin proteins, which assemble into long, hollow cylinders. These structures are not only crucial for maintaining the cell shape and enabling intracellular transport, but they also play a role in cell division and the organization of the cell's internal environment. What makes microtubules particularly interesting in the context of ORCH theory is their highly organized and dynamic nature, which might allow them to support quantum processes. The idea that microtubules could play a role in consciousness stems from their ability to oscillate and interact with other cellular components. These oscillations might allow microtubules to support quantum coherence, a state where quantum particles remain correlated in a way that enables them to function together in unison, even over relatively large distances within the brain. In this context, microtubules could act as a sort of quantum computer, processing information in a way that classical neurons cannot. One of the most striking aspects of microtubules is their scale. At the nanoscale level, they are small enough to potentially interact with quantum effects, yet large and complex enough to support the kinds of organized processes that are necessary for something as intricate as consciousness. This dual nature places microtubules in a unique position where they could bridge the gap between the quantum world and the macroscopic world of neural activity. Stuart Hameroff's contribution to ORCH theory was rooted in his extensive research into the structure and function of microtubules. He suggested that the arrangement of tubulin proteins within microtubules could facilitate quantum computation. Tubulin proteins can exist in different conformational states, potentially representing quantum bits or qubits. These qubits, in theory, could process vast amounts of information simultaneously due to the principles of superposition. In ORCH theory, these qubits are proposed to undergo orchestrated objective reduction, where a quantum state collapses into a single outcome, correlating with a moment of conscious experience. The theory suggests that this collapse is not random, but is influenced by the environment of the brain, including the activity of neurons and the biochemical milieu in which microtubules operate. What differentiates microtubules from other cellular structures in this theory is their potential to maintain quantum coherence long enough for meaningful processing to occur. While the brain's environment is typically too warm and chaotic for quantum coherence to persist, Hameroff and Penrose proposed that the unique properties of microtubules could protect these quantum states, allowing them to contribute to consciousness. Moreover, microtubules are strategically positioned within neurons to influence neural activity. They are involved in the regulation of synaptic activity, which is crucial for communication between neurons. This positioning means that if quantum processes were occurring within microtubules, they could directly affect the firing of neurons, thereby influencing thoughts, decisions, and awareness. The theory also posits that the microtubule's structured network within neurons allows for a highly integrated form of information processing. Unlike conventional neural networks, which rely on the connections between neurons to transmit signals, the microtubule network could process information on a much finer scale, potentially allowing for a more nuanced and sophisticated form of consciousness. This hypothesis leads to profound implications about the nature of consciousness itself. If ORCH theory is correct, then consciousness is not just an emergent property of complex neural networks, but a fundamental aspect of the universe, rooted in the very fabric of reality at the quantum level. Microtubules, with their unique ability to bridge the quantum and classical worlds, could be the key to unlocking the mystery of how consciousness arises. ORCH theory has pushed the boundaries of our understanding of consciousness by suggesting that the answer lies not in large-scale brain structures or simple biochemical interactions, but in the intricate dance of quantum states within the tiny microtubules that make up our neurons. As with any groundbreaking theory, ORCH theory has sparked a significant amount of debate, both within the scientific community and beyond. While it offers a provocative explanation for consciousness, it also raises numerous questions and challenges that have fueled ongoing discussion. One of the most profound implications of ORCH theory is its suggestion that consciousness might be an intrinsic part of the universe, deeply rooted in the quantum fabric of reality. If consciousness emerges from quantum processes within microtubules, then it could mean that awareness is not just a byproduct of complex brain functions, but a fundamental property of matter itself. This perspective aligns with certain philosophical viewpoints, such as Panpsychism, which posits that consciousness is a universal feature of all things, from the smallest particles to the largest structures in the cosmos. This idea challenges the conventional view of consciousness as something that only arises in complex biological systems, such as the human brain. Instead, ORCH theory suggests that consciousness could be a much more widespread and fundamental aspect of the universe. This has profound implications for our understanding of life, the universe, and our place within it. If consciousness is indeed a quantum phenomenon, then it might exist in various forms throughout the cosmos, potentially even in systems that we currently consider non-living. Moreover, ORCH theory offers a new perspective on the mind-body problem, one of the oldest and most enduring questions in philosophy. This problem concerns the relationship between the mind and the physical body, specifically how mental states like thoughts and emotions can arise from physical processes in the brain. Traditional approaches to this problem have often struggled to explain how subjective experiences, our inner thoughts and feelings, can emerge from the objective, physical workings of the brain. ORCH theory provides a potential solution by suggesting that consciousness arises from quantum processes that are fundamentally different from classical physical processes. This quantum view of consciousness offers a way to bridge the gap between the subjective and the objective, suggesting that consciousness might be a direct result of the quantum nature of the universe itself. Biocentrism. Biocentrism is a revolutionary theory that challenges the traditional materialistic view of the universe. Proposed by Dr. Robert Lanza, a prominent American scientist and author, biocentrism posits that life and consciousness are not mere byproducts of the physical universe, but are instead the fundamental forces that create reality itself. This theory turns the conventional understanding of the universe on its head, suggesting that the universe exists because of life and consciousness rather than the other way around. The concept of biocentrism stems from Lanza's extensive work in the fields of biology and regenerative medicine. Throughout his career, Lanza has explored the mysteries of life, particularly the ways in which life processes seem to transcend the physical limitations of the material world. Biocentrism arose as a synthesis of his biological expertise and his deep interest in the nature of consciousness, leading to a theory that attempts to unify the two. At its core, biocentrism asserts that the universe cannot be fully understood without considering the role of life and consciousness. According to this theory, space and time are not absolute entities that exist independently of observers. Rather, they are constructs that arise as a result of the way living beings perceive and interact with the world. This idea is reminiscent of the philosophical notion that reality is a mental construct, a concept that has intrigued thinkers for centuries, but is now being re-examined in light of modern scientific discoveries. One of the key tenets of biocentrism is that consciousness is the driving force behind the universe's existence. In other words, the universe doesn't exist in a fully formed state out there, but is instead brought into existence by the act of observation. This challenges the traditional view of an objective reality that exists independently of whether or not it is observed. In the biocentric view, the act of observation collapses the wave function of possibilities into a specific, observable reality. Without an observer, there is no definitive reality, only a realm of potential outcomes. Biocentrism draws on principles from quantum mechanics to support this idea. Quantum mechanics, the branch of physics that deals with the behavior of particles on the smallest scales, has long suggested that observation plays a crucial role in determining the state of a system. Experiments such as the double-slit experiment have shown that particles behave differently depending on whether or not they are being observed, leading to the conclusion that consciousness somehow influences physical reality. Lanza takes this concept a step further by proposing that consciousness is not just an influence, but the fundamental basis of reality itself. He argues that life creates the universe rather than the universe creating life. This idea is radical and has sparked considerable debate, particularly because it challenges the materialistic framework that has dominated science for centuries. If biocentrism is correct, it would mean that our understanding of the universe, from the smallest particles to the vastness of space, needs to be re-evaluated in light of the primacy of life and consciousness. As we continue to explore biocentrism, we'll delve into the scientific underpinnings of the theory, examining how it interprets space, time, and the universe through the lens of consciousness. We'll also consider the philosophical implications of this theory, particularly how it reshapes our understanding of reality and our place within it. Building on the foundation, we now turn to the scientific aspects of biocentrism, exploring how this theory reinterprets space, time, and the universe through the lens of consciousness. Biocentrism challenges the traditional objective view of reality by proposing that space and time are not independent, absolute constructs, but are instead products of our consciousness. One of the most provocative claims of biocentrism is that space and time are not the fixed, immutable dimensions we typically perceive them to be. Instead, they are constructs that exist only within the context of a conscious observer. According to biocentrism, the universe is like a blank canvas, and it is our consciousness that paints the picture, giving shape to space and time. Without life and consciousness, these dimensions would have no meaning, no substance. They are fundamentally tied to our perceptions. This idea aligns with certain interpretations of quantum mechanics, which suggest that reality is not as solid or as fixed as we might think. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in a state of probability, a superposition of all possible states, until they are observed. It is the act of observation that collapses these probabilities into a single, observable state. This phenomenon has been demonstrated in experiments such as the famous double-slit experiment, where particles behave differently depending on whether they are being observed. Biocentrism takes this concept further by arguing that the universe itself behaves in this way, not just on the quantum level, but across all scales. The theory suggests that just as particles require an observer to determine their state, the universe requires consciousness to give it structure and reality. In this view, the universe is not a vast pre-existing expanse in which life happens to emerge. Rather, the universe comes into being through the interaction of consciousness with the potentiality of space and time. The relationship between consciousness and the physical world is central to biocentrism. According to the theory, consciousness does not arise from physical processes within the brain, as traditional neuroscience suggests. Instead, consciousness is the fundamental reality, and the physical world is a manifestation of this consciousness. This idea challenges the materialist notion that the brain produces consciousness, proposing instead that the brain acts as a receiver or a conduit for consciousness. Much like a television set receives signals and translates them into images and sound. This shift in perspective has profound implications for how we understand the universe and our place within it. If consciousness is fundamental, then the physical world, including space and time, is secondary, a kind of stage set upon which the drama of life unfolds. This challenges the traditional scientific view, which holds that the universe is a vast, empty space governed by the laws of physics, within which life is a rare and incidental occurrence. Biocentrism also offers a new way to think about the origins of the universe. In the conventional Big Bang model, the universe began as a singularity, a point of infinite density and temperature, which expanded to form the cosmos we see today. However, biocentrism suggests that the universe did not begin in the traditional sense. Instead, it emerged in conjunction with consciousness. In this view, the universe is not a pre-existing entity that happened and then life appeared. Rather, the universe and consciousness co-arose, with each shaping and defining the other. Quantum mechanics plays a crucial role in supporting biocentrism's claims. The theory draws on the principle of quantum entanglement, where particles become linked and instantaneously affect each other regardless of distance, to suggest that consciousness is interconnected with the fabric of reality in ways that transcend traditional physical explanations. This interconnection implies that consciousness is not localized to individual organisms, but is a fundamental part of the universe's structure. As we continue to explore biocentrism, the next section will delve into the philosophical implications of this theory, particularly how it redefines concepts like life, death, and the nature of reality. We will also examine the challenges and criticisms that biocentrism faces from the scientific community. Biocentrism, with its bold assertion that life and consciousness are central to the existence of the universe, carries profound philosophical implications. This theory challenges the conventional understanding of reality, offering a perspective that places consciousness at the heart of all existence. It invites us to rethink the nature of life, death, and the universe itself. One of the most intriguing implications of biocentrism is its redefinition of life and death. In a traditional materialist view, death marks the end of consciousness. When the brain ceases to function, so does the mind. However, biocentrism suggests that consciousness is not confined to the physical body. Since consciousness is fundamental to the fabric of reality, it does not simply disappear when the body dies. Instead, consciousness could continue in some form, independent of the physical body. This idea aligns with certain spiritual and philosophical traditions that view consciousness as eternal, suggesting that life and death are not absolute states, but part of a continuous process. This perspective also challenges the way we perceive time. If consciousness is not bound by the physical brain, then time, as we experience it, might also be an illusion. In the biocentric view, time is not a linear progression from past to future, but a construct created by consciousness. This means that the past, present, and future might all exist simultaneously, with our perception of time being merely a way for consciousness to organize experiences. This concept resonates with the theory of relativity, where time is relative and can vary depending on the observer's perspective. Another significant philosophical implication of biocentrism is the idea that the universe is participatory. According to this theory, the universe does not exist as a fully formed entity, independent of observers. Rather, it is shaped and brought into existence by the act of observation. This participatory aspect of the universe suggests that reality is not a static, objective truth, but is instead fluid and dynamic, influenced by the consciousness of the beings that perceive it. This challenges the traditional view of an objective reality that exists independently of life and consciousness. Biocentrism also prompts us to reconsider the nature of existence itself. If consciousness is the foundation of reality, then what we perceive as the physical world might be more like a virtual reality, an experience generated by consciousness rather than a fixed material structure. This idea has parallels with various philosophical and spiritual traditions, such as the concept of Maya in Hinduism, where the physical world is seen as an illusion. It also resonates with modern theories like the simulation hypothesis, which suggests that our reality could be a sophisticated simulation. However, biocentrism is not without its critics. One of the main challenges to this theory is its departure from the materialist framework that has been the foundation of scientific inquiry for centuries. Critics argue that biocentrism lacks empirical evidence and that it relies too heavily on philosophical speculation. They point out that while quantum mechanics does suggest a link between observation and reality, extending this to claim that consciousness creates the universe is a significant leap that has yet to be substantiated by scientific research. Another criticism is that biocentrism could be seen as anthropocentric, placing human consciousness at the center of the universe. While the theory posits that all life is central to the universe's existence, the focus on consciousness can be interpreted as elevating human experience above all else. Critics argue that this perspective might ignore the vast complexity of the universe and the possibility that life and consciousness, as we understand them, are just small parts of a much larger, incomprehensible reality. Despite these criticisms, biocentrism continues to intrigue and inspire those who are dissatisfied with the limitations of the materialist worldview. It offers a vision of the universe that is deeply interconnected, where life and consciousness are not mere accidents of evolution, but are fundamental to the very structure of reality. This perspective invites us to explore the universe not just as a collection of matter and energy, but as a living, conscious entity that we are intimately a part of. As we explore the cultural and ethical implications of biocentrism, we'll see how this theory influences our views on the environment, spirituality, and the meaning of life. Biocentrism challenges us to think deeply about our relationship with the universe and the role of consciousness in shaping reality. Biocentrism extends beyond scientific and philosophical realms, influencing our cultural, ethical, and spiritual perspectives. By placing life and consciousness at the center of existence, biocentrism offers a transformative way of understanding our relationship with the universe, nature, and each other. One of the most profound cultural impacts of biocentrism is its potential to reshape our views on the environment. Traditional materialist perspectives often view nature as a collection of resources to be exploited for human benefit. In contrast, biocentrism encourages a more holistic approach where the natural world is seen as an integral part of a conscious, interconnected universe. This perspective suggests that every living being plays a crucial role in shaping reality, and that the well-being of the planet is directly linked to the well-being of all life forms. By recognizing the intrinsic value of all life, biocentrism promotes a more ethical and sustainable approach to environmental stewardship. This shift in perspective also has significant ethical implications. If life and consciousness are fundamental to the universe, then every form of life possesses an inherent value that demands respect and care. This challenges us to reconsider how we interact with other living beings, from animals to plants to entire ecosystems. Biocentrism suggests that harming the environment or other life forms is not just a moral failing, but a disruption of the very fabric of reality. This perspective encourages us to adopt more compassionate and responsible behaviors, recognizing our interconnectedness with all life. Biocentrism also resonates with many spiritual and religious traditions that emphasize the unity of all existence. By suggesting that consciousness is the foundation of reality, biocentrism aligns with concepts found in Eastern philosophies, such as the idea of the interconnectedness of all things in Buddhism, or the concept of Brahman in Hinduism, which views the universe as a manifestation of a singular, universal consciousness. These parallels offer a bridge between scientific and spiritual worldviews, suggesting that modern science and ancient wisdom might be converging on a deeper understanding of reality. In addition to its spiritual resonance, biocentrism challenges the notion of human exceptionalism. By proposing that all life is central to the universe, biocentrism implies that humans are not inherently superior to other forms of life. This challenges the anthropocentric view that has dominated much of Western thought, encouraging a more egalitarian approach to our relationship with other species and the planet. This perspective could inspire new ethical frameworks that prioritize the well-being of all life forms rather than placing human interests above all else. Furthermore, biocentrism offers a new way of thinking about the meaning of life. In a materialist worldview, meaning is often seen as something humans create within an indifferent universe. However, biocentrism suggests that meaning is not an artificial construct, but an inherent aspect of a conscious universe. This perspective offers a more optimistic view of existence, where life is not a random accident, but a fundamental part of the universe's structure. This can provide a deeper sense of purpose and connection as we recognize that our lives are integral to the ongoing creation of reality. The potential future directions of biocentrism are vast and varied. As more researchers and thinkers explore this theory, we might see new developments that further integrate biocentrism with other scientific and philosophical frameworks. For example, advancements in neuroscience could provide more insights into the relationship between consciousness and the physical world, lending empirical support to biocentric ideas. Similarly, as we develop a better understanding of quantum mechanics, we might uncover new evidence that reinforces the central role of consciousness in shaping reality. In the realm of technology, biocentrism could influence the development of artificial intelligence and virtual reality. If consciousness is indeed fundamental to the universe, then creating conscious machines or virtual environments could have profound ethical and philosophical implications. These technologies could allow us to explore new dimensions of consciousness and reality, further expanding our understanding of existence. As we continue to explore these ideas, it's clear that biocentrism offers a bold and transformative vision of the universe. By placing life and consciousness at the heart of reality, biocentrism challenges us to rethink our place in the cosmos and to adopt a more ethical, compassionate, and interconnected approach to life. Whether or not biocentrism ultimately proves to be correct, it provides a powerful framework for exploring the mysteries of existence and our role within it. Panpsychism. Panpsychism is a theory that challenges conventional views of consciousness by suggesting that consciousness is not limited to humans or animals, but is a fundamental aspect of all things in the universe. This idea might seem radical, but it has deep roots in the history of philosophy and has recently gained renewed interest as scientists and thinkers explore the mysteries of the mind. The term panpsychism combines two Greek words, pan, meaning all, and psyche, meaning soul or mind. At its core, Panpsychism proposes that mind or consciousness is a universal feature of reality, present even in the smallest particles. This view contrasts sharply with materialism, which holds that consciousness arises only from complex biological systems like the human brain. Panpsychism's origins can be traced back to ancient philosophy. Early Greek philosophers, like Thales of Miletus, believed that everything in nature had a form of life or consciousness. Thales, for instance, famously suggested that everything is full of gods, implying that all things possess some sort of inner life or awareness. This early form of panpsychism reflected a worldview where the cosmos was seen as alive and interconnected. As philosophy evolved, the idea that consciousness could be a fundamental aspect of reality persisted in various forms. In the Renaissance, Giordano Bruno proposed that the universe was infinite and filled with countless living beings, including stars and planets, each with its own consciousness. His ideas were considered heretical at the time, leading to his eventual persecution, but they marked an important moment in the history of thought about the cosmos and consciousness. In the modern era, panpsychism has been revisited by philosophers and scientists who are dissatisfied with traditional explanations of consciousness. One of the most prominent contemporary advocates of panpsychism is the philosopher Galen Strawson. He argues that consciousness cannot simply emerge from non-conscious matter. Instead, he suggests that consciousness must be a fundamental feature of reality, existing in all things to some degree. Strawson's perspective is part of a broader critique of materialism, the dominant view in contemporary science, which posits that everything, including consciousness, can be explained by physical processes. However, materialism struggles to account for subjective experience, the inner qualitative aspect of consciousness known as qualia. Panpsychism offers an alternative by proposing that consciousness is not something that arises from physical processes, but is instead a basic aspect of reality, much like space, time, and matter. This approach opens up intriguing possibilities for understanding consciousness. If consciousness is a fundamental property of all matter, then it might not be something that is produced by the brain, but rather something that the brain organizes and amplifies. This idea suggests a continuity of consciousness across different forms of existence, from the simplest particles to the most complex organisms, with the complexity of consciousness increasing along with the complexity of the system. Panpsychism invites us to reconsider what it means to be conscious and to explore the possibility that the universe is teeming with different forms of awareness, most of which are too simple or too different from our own to be easily recognized. This perspective challenges the boundaries we typically draw between the living and the non-living, the conscious and the unconscious, suggesting a more interconnected and dynamic view of reality. As we delve deeper into panpsychism, it becomes clear that this theory offers a unique perspective on the relationship between mind and matter. While traditional views often see consciousness as a byproduct of complex systems, like the human brain, panpsychism suggests that consciousness is inherent in all matter. This idea challenges the notion that there is a strict divide between the animate and inanimate, or between the conscious and unconscious. One of the central ideas in panpsychism is that consciousness exists on a spectrum. On one end of this spectrum, we find highly complex systems like the human brain, which produce rich and intricate forms of consciousness. On the other end, we find the most basic particles of matter, which, according to panpsychism, might possess extremely simple forms of consciousness. This idea is not to suggest that atoms have thoughts or feelings, but rather that they have a basic form of awareness, however rudimentary. This perspective helps address one of the most significant challenges in the philosophy of mind, the hard problem of consciousness. The hard problem, as articulated by philosopher David Chalmers, refers to the difficulty of explaining why and how physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience. Materialist explanations often fall short because they struggle to account for the qualitative aspects of experience, the what it's like to be conscious. Panpsychism offers a different approach. By positing that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of matter, it suggests that subjective experience doesn't need to be created by the brain. Instead, the brain may function as a complex structure that organizes and integrates the basic consciousness inherent in its components. In this view, consciousness is not an emergent property that arises from specific configurations of matter, but rather a feature that is always present, merely taking on more complex forms in more complex systems. This leads to intriguing implications. If consciousness is indeed fundamental, then everything in the universe, from rocks to stars, might possess some level of awareness, no matter how minimal. The difference between human consciousness and the consciousness of a rock would be one of degree, not kind. Human consciousness is highly integrated and capable of complex thoughts, emotions, and self-awareness, while the consciousness of a rock might be so simple that it's almost imperceptible to us. This idea resonates with certain interpretations of quantum mechanics, where particles exhibit behavior that suggests a form of agency or choice. Some theorists speculate that these behaviors could be indicative of a basic form of consciousness inherent in all matter. This doesn't mean that particles are conscious in the way humans are, but it might suggest that they possess a very primitive form of awareness, enough to influence their behavior in ways that defy classical explanations. While this idea remains speculative, it opens up fascinating possibilities for how we understand the universe. If consciousness is everywhere, then the universe might be far more interconnected and alive than we currently understand. This perspective invites us to consider the possibility that consciousness plays a fundamental role in the structure and evolution of the cosmos itself. Panpsychism also invites us to rethink our ethical and environmental responsibilities. If all matter is conscious to some degree, then the way we interact with the world around us might need to change. This perspective could foster a greater sense of respect and care for all forms of existence, encouraging a more holistic and harmonious relationship with nature. Panpsychism also pushes us to rethink the very nature of consciousness itself, not just as a phenomenon that arises in complex systems, but as a fundamental aspect of reality that might exist in forms vastly different from our own. This leads to the fascinating notion that consciousness could be expressed in ways that are completely alien to human experience. For instance, while we experience consciousness as a stream of thoughts, emotions, and sensory perceptions, a simpler form of consciousness like that of a single atom might be something entirely incomprehensible to us, an almost imperceptible flicker of awareness, so different that we struggle to even conceive of it. This idea encourages us to consider the possibility of diverse types of consciousness existing throughout the universe. If panpsychism is correct, then consciousness could manifest in countless forms, not just within living organisms, but across the entire spectrum of existence. This opens up the possibility that the universe itself might be conscious in some form, or that cosmic structures like galaxies or black holes possess a kind of awareness that we cannot even begin to understand. One of the more radical implications of panpsychism is the possibility that the universe as a whole could be a single, vast conscious entity. This idea aligns with certain interpretations of ancient philosophical and spiritual traditions, where the cosmos is seen as a living being with its own mind and purpose. In modern times, this concept resonates with the Gaia hypothesis, which suggests that the Earth itself functions as a living organism, maintaining conditions suitable for life through a complex web of interactions. However, panpsychism takes this idea even further by suggesting that the Earth's consciousness could be just one part of a much larger universal mind. If all matter is conscious to some degree, then the interactions between these forms of consciousness could give rise to a kind of global or even cosmic consciousness. This might be similar to the way individual neurons in the brain contribute to the overall consciousness of a person. The universe, in this view, could be a vast interconnected mind, with each part contributing to a larger whole. Panpsychism also pushes us to rethink the very nature of consciousness itself, not just as a phenomenon that arises in complex systems, but as a fundamental aspect of reality that might exist in forms vastly different from our own. This leads to the fascinating notion that consciousness could be expressed in ways that are completely alien to human experience. For instance, while we experience consciousness as a stream of thoughts, emotions, and sensory perceptions, a simpler form of consciousness like that of a single atom might be something entirely incomprehensible to us, an almost imperceptible flicker of awareness, so different that we struggle to even conceive of it. This idea encourages us to consider the possibility of diverse types of consciousness existing throughout the universe. If panpsychism is correct, then consciousness could manifest in countless forms, not just within living organisms, but across the entire spectrum of existence. This opens up the possibility that the universe itself might be conscious in some form, or that cosmic structures like galaxies or black holes possess a kind of awareness that we cannot even begin to understand. One of the more radical implications of panpsychism is the possibility that the universe as a whole could be a single, vast, conscious entity. This idea aligns with certain interpretations of ancient philosophical and spiritual traditions, where the cosmos is seen as a living being with its own mind and purpose. In modern times, this concept resonates with the Gaia hypothesis, which suggests that the Earth itself functions as a living organism, maintaining conditions suitable for life through a complex web of interactions. However, panpsychism takes this idea even further by suggesting that the Earth's consciousness could be just one part of a much larger, universal mind. If all matter is conscious to some degree, then the interactions between these forms of consciousness could give rise to a kind of global or even cosmic consciousness. This might be similar to the way individual neurons in the brain contribute to the overall consciousness of a person. The universe, in this view, could be a vast interconnected mind, with each part contributing to a larger whole. This speculative idea has inspired various works of science fiction and popular culture, where the universe is portrayed as a living, conscious entity, or where different forms of consciousness interact on a cosmic scale. While these ideas remain highly speculative and are far from being scientifically proven, they nonetheless capture the imagination and challenge us to think about consciousness in new and expansive ways. Moreover, panpsychism might provide a framework for understanding the relationship between consciousness and time. If consciousness is a fundamental aspect of reality, then it could be that time, as we perceive it, is also tied to the way consciousness experiences the world. This might lead to the idea that different forms of consciousness experience time in different ways. Some might perceive it as a continuous flow, while others might experience it as fragmented or even nonlinear. These speculative ideas are not meant to provide definitive answers, but to expand our thinking about what consciousness could be. By considering consciousness as a fundamental feature of the universe, panpsychism invites us to explore possibilities that go beyond the limits of our current scientific understanding, encouraging a more holistic and integrated view of reality. In addition to its philosophical implications, panpsychism offers a fascinating perspective on the evolution of consciousness. Traditional views often suggest that consciousness emerged at some point in the evolutionary process, possibly with the development of complex nervous systems. Panpsychism, however, proposes a different narrative, one where consciousness didn't suddenly appear, but has always existed as a fundamental aspect of the universe. This perspective invites us to rethink the timeline of consciousness, considering it not as a latecomer in the evolutionary story, but as something that has been present since the very beginning of time. If consciousness has always been a part of the universe, then the evolution of life on Earth could be seen as the gradual increase in the complexity and integration of this ever-present consciousness. In this view, consciousness isn't something that organisms acquire, but rather something that they develop and express in increasingly sophisticated ways. Simple organisms might exhibit basic forms of awareness, such as responding to light or heat, while more complex organisms, like humans, have evolved to experience rich and multifaceted consciousness, including self-awareness, abstract thought, and emotions. This perspective also leads to intriguing questions about the future evolution of consciousness. If consciousness continues to evolve, what might it look like in the future? Could new forms of consciousness emerge, either biologically or artificially, that are as different from human consciousness as ours is from that of simpler organisms? This line of thinking opens up possibilities for the development of advanced, perhaps even non-biological forms of consciousness, such as those that might arise in artificial intelligence or in post-human evolution. Panpsychism also encourages us to consider how consciousness might function in different contexts or environments. For instance, could consciousness take on different forms in other parts of the universe, perhaps in conditions radically different from those on Earth? The idea that consciousness might be universal and adaptable suggests that it could manifest in ways that are unimaginable to us, shaped by the unique conditions of different planets, stars, or even entire galaxies. Furthermore, Panpsychism invites us to explore the idea that consciousness might not be limited to individual entities, but could also exist collectively. Just as individual neurons in a brain work together to create a unified consciousness. Panpsychism raises the possibility that individual consciousnesses could combine to form a collective or shared awareness. This idea resonates with some interpretations of collective intelligence, where groups of individuals or even entire ecosystems work together in a way that suggests a form of collective consciousness. Such concepts challenge our traditional understanding of individuality and separation, suggesting instead that consciousness might be more interconnected than we realize. If consciousness is indeed a fundamental property of the universe, then it might transcend the boundaries we typically draw between self and other, individual and collective, human and non-human. These ideas also encourage a re-examination of spiritual and mystical experiences. Throughout history, people have reported experiences of unity with the universe, moments where they feel deeply connected to all things. Panpsychism offers a philosophical framework that could help explain such experiences, suggesting that they might be glimpses into the deeper interconnected nature of consciousness that underlies all existence. As we conclude this exploration of panpsychism, it's clear that this theory offers a radical rethinking of consciousness, one that challenges the boundaries of science, philosophy, and spirituality. While panpsychism remains a highly speculative and often controversial idea, it opens the door to new ways of understanding the universe and our place within it. By suggesting that consciousness is not a rare and isolated phenomenon, but a fundamental aspect of all matter, panpsychism encourages us to view the universe as a vibrant, interconnected web of awareness, full of potential and mystery.